Hi, and welcome to another edition of DIY Homesteading with Missouri River Regional Library. I'm Angie. I'm coming to you from my mom's kitchen again. And today we're going to make pie crust. So, I adore pie. Fruit pies are probably my favorite. And as a kid, I always wanted pie instead of cake for my birthday. So I'd be like, no, I want an apple pie or I want a peach pie. Usually it was apple because my birthday is in the fall. But we definitely eat a lot of pie in my family. So, and you know, the holidays, you definitely have pie. You have apple, you have pumpkin, you have pecan, whatever kinds of pie you like. And one Thanksgiving, I believe it was, we were at my grandma's house and Mom and Grandma had both made pies. And they were both bragging on this new pie crust recipe they had. And they were like, oh yeah, we tried a new one and we really liked it. And then they were like, well, what recipe was it? And it turns out they both used the St. Margaret's Centennial Cookbook Perfect Pie Crust Recipe by Charlotte Veet. Funny story, because it has vinegar in it. It has vinegar and an egg. And so now that's the pie crust we use in our family, is this Perfect Pie Crust from the St. Margaret Cookbook. So I am going to attempt to make one. I've never made a pie crust before, so we're going to learn this together. But my mom is standing by to instruct me and to make sure that I don't mess this up. We'll see how that goes. So, according to Charlotte Veet in the Perfect Pie Crust, I want to combine my 4.5 cups of flour with a teaspoon of baking soda.
Powder.
Okay, see, I've already messed up. A teaspoon of baking powder. I don't know why I get those two confused all the time, but I do. I usually use the correct one because I look at the jar before I use it. But so I want a teaspoon of baking powder, a tablespoon of sugar, and then a teaspoon of salt. And then I'm going to just mix all these dry ingredients up a little bit so that the baking powder and the sugar and the salt are kind of mixed into the flour. And then we're going to put some Crisco in. So back in the day, you probably would have used lard with your pie crust. Today, we're using Crisco. And this is 1 3/4 cup of Crisco. I'll get my measurements right. So 1 3/4 cup of Crisco that we have pre-measured here. Thank you, Mother. And we're going to put that into our flour mixture. And so far, I think I'm doing this okay.
Yep.
Okay. Mom refused to be on camera. I said, well, how about I just film you making pie crust? Because she's an expert. And she was like, I'm not camera ready. I don't want to do that. And I was like, well, we could get you camera ready. But she still refuses. So she's just instructing from behind the camera today. So that is my 1 3/4 cup of Crisco. And then take a pastry blender and I'm going to blend my Crisco into my flour. This could be where it goes all wrong. I don't know. But I think you just go like this and you just kind of cut it into the flour so that the Crisco, or you shoot the flour all over the counter. That works too. But I think you just want the Crisco to get incorporated into the flour. And your pastry cutter, I could be wrong about this, but I think the pastry cutter, because it slices it, it kind of cuts it up into smaller bits into your flour so that you don't have the big chunks of Crisco in your pastry. I don't know if this is how they would do this on Great British Baking Show or one of those other cooking shows, but this is how we do it here. And I think it works really good because Mom's pie crust turns out excellent. And we've eaten a lot of pie this year. We've had a lot of fruit, which, as I said, is my favorite kind of pie. I love apple pie. Peach pie is my favorite, second favorite. I do enjoy cherry pie. The best pie I ever had, though, was this grape pie, seriously, a grape pie that I had in Ohio when we were on our way to Niagara Falls. We stopped in Amish country in Ohio, and I had a Concord grape pie. Oh my God, I'm still thinking about that 10 years later. I've never had a grape pie since. I'd love to try it, but I don't have grapes. So we might have to see about getting grapes one of these years and trying grape pies. Okay, so does this look about right, Mom?
Looks pretty good.
Okay, so then if my Crisco and my flour is all incorporated, then it says I'm going to mix my vinegar, water, and egg in a separate bowl. So I have a 1/2 cup of cold water here, and I'm going to put 1 egg in it. 1 egg. And then 1 tablespoon of vinegar. And Mom says you can use either white vinegar or apple cider vinegar. She has used both. They both turn out just fine. We're going to use white vinegar. And I'm telling you, this might be the secret to the perfect pie crust. Oh, could be. All right, so I'm going to add this, or I'm going to mix my egg up in here.
Probably need a fork.
I probably do need a fork. It's not working very good with that. Let's try it with this. There we go. So mix my egg, vinegar, and water up, and then I'm going to incorporate this into my flour mixture.
And you're going to need
I'm going to need something to stir that with, aren't I, Mom?
You are.
I thought Mom had prepped me here with all the tools I was going to need. She told me she did.
Nope, I failed.
Lies. All lies. Would I use a spoon, Mother, or would I use a rubber spatula?
I would use the bigger spatula or the wooden spoon.
I don't see a bigger spatula, so I'll use a wooden spoon.
There you go.
All right, so I'm just going to pour this in here and stir it up. Is that correct?
Gently.
Gently pour it.
Gently stir it.
Stir it. Okay, gently pour, gently stir. Just be gentle with your pie crust, as you should with many things. Yep. All right, so let me get that all stirred in here.
It sometimes takes a little more cold water.
Oh, now we hear the truth. Sometimes you have to improvise. Mom always laughs at my cooking because if you've watched any of these videos, I have a hard time following recipes. And she laughs about that, but here she is saying, oh no, it's not just 1/2 cup of water. It might be a little bit more. I don't know. We might need just a smidge more water though.
Yes, because it should form into a ball.
It should form into a ball. Let me get some water.
And just add a little bit at a time.
Okay, so we'll just do a little bit there. See what happens. And then we get to roll it out, and I think it might need just a
smidge more.
Yeah, okay. So Mom says that once it gets to this stage, it should form a ball. So let's see if we're going to form a ball here. Looks like we're getting kind of ball-like, I would say. What do you think, Mom? Does that look right?
That looks pretty good.
Okay. So then this is enough for 4 pie crusts. So if you're going to make like a pecan or a pumpkin, this would make 4 pies. If you're going to make an apple or a cherry or something like this, this makes 2 pies because you want a top and a bottom crust. So we're going to roll this out.
So first you're going to divide it in 4.
She's so demanding. Okay. So first we're going to divide this in 4. If you were fancy, you would probably have a nice weighted scale, you know, a scale where you would measure this out. But I bet Mom will tell me she just does it by eyeballing it. Maybe my eyeballs aren't the best.
Looks pretty good.
That looks good. Okay, so then I'll divide those in 2 more.
Okay.
This one looks a little fatter, so okay. So we've got 4 pie crusts. Now we're gonna make some pies. So I'm gonna do this one at a time. We're gonna spread some flour and roll this out. All right, now we're ready to roll our pie crust. So I'm gonna spread a little flour on my nice mat here. And Mom says the less you work dough, the better. It'll get tough if you overwork it. So we're gonna try to spread or roll this out as neatly as possible. We'll see. This is my first time, like I said. I don't know why I've never made pie crust before. Mom just always does it. This is completely not round. I might suck at pie crust.
Pie crust is forgiving.
Let's hope so. Let's see if we can. Okay. So try to do it better than I am. If you were an expert pie crust and you're maker and you're watching this, I apologize. I apologize. You're probably like, oh my God. Then I wanted to, I think that might fit in my pie.
You're probably okay. So fold it in half.
Yep. And then
very gently.
lay it in here. And then lay it like this. Okay, and as Mom said, pie crust is forgiving. So I almost made it to the edges. I'm just gonna have to do a little patching.
And when you patch, you have to moisten it to get it to stick.
Okay, I had water. Moisten around the edges. And we'll get this to stick. There we go. Might need a little patch right there. Now, I hope you realize this is my very first pie crust ever. We're gonna eat it and we're gonna love it, but it might not be the prettiest. But that's okay. If it's your first pie crust too and it's not very pretty, it's all right. If it's edible, that's all that really matters. Because you know, once you bake this, you're not gonna see those little spots. They're gonna bake up and they're gonna be fine. Okay, now, what do I do, Mom? What do I do now?
So now you're gonna get your filling. You can do one of either 2 things. You can either get your top ready or you can get your filling ready.
What would you recommend doing?
I'd get my filling ready.
Okay, we're making apple pie. We just spent like an hour peeling and slicing apples. So let me go grab my apples. Okay, so we have our bottom of our pie crust. So now we need our filling. We are using good old Betty Crocker. She's our tried and true recipes. So the Betty Crocker cookbook, funny story. This is like the
1976, I think.
76 edition of this. And a few years ago, we had to buy Mom this exact cookbook right here because her other one had fallen apart and she wanted the same one. No updates. We want the 1976 edition. So we did find the 1976 edition of the Betty Crocker cookbook for Mom. So now she has one that's not falling apart. Of course, that also means that our favorite recipes don't have dough and food residue on them. So we're not sure where they're at. Who knows which ones are your favorite if the pages aren't dirty. But anyway, we're using the fruit pie recipe. We're using a 10-inch pie pan. So we're using the 10-inch recipe for apple pie. So it says that I need a cup of sugar. So since I have 2 pies, I'm going to do 2 cups of sugar. And we're just going to measure this out into another bowl. And then we're going to put our apples in it. 1 cup. 2 cups of sugar. Okay. Then I need 1/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour. So that means I need 2/3 of a cup. And the 2/3 cup. Oops, that's a little much.
Close enough.
That was 3/4 cup, Mom, not 2/3. Okay. 2/3 cup of flour, 2 teaspoons nutmeg, 2 teaspoons nutmeg, 1, 2, 2 teaspoons cinnamon, and then a dash of salt. Oops. Pinch of salt, dash of salt, however you want to do that. Okay, so then we're going to stir that up, and then we're going to stir it into our apples. And it takes 8 cups of apples, which since we're doing 2 pies, we have 16 cups of apples right here. So we're going to stir our flour, sugar mixture together, and then we're going to put that on the apples and stir it up. And hopefully our bowl is big enough. Here. You know, nothing really says fall like apple pie. Like I said before, apple pie really is my favorite kind of pie. And we've had a lot of it this fall. We went and picked apples, which was a lot of fun. If you ever get a chance to do that, do it. We had a great time picking apples. It was super easy. And so we had a couple bushels of apples this fall that we've been working on eating and canning and doing all kinds of stuff. Mom has pre-made apple pie filling. So basically this step right here, where you put your cinnamon and sugar and flour and all that stuff on your apples, she pre-made that and canned it so that we can have apple pie any time of year, not just in the fall when they're in season. We've made apple jelly. That's delicious. You know me, you know my family. We love jelly. So we make this caramel apple jelly that's so good. If you need the recipe, let me know. I can find it for you. We also make a raw apple cake. We've discovered my 91-year-old grandma has a sweet tooth. Such a sweet tooth. She doesn't eat a whole lot, but if you put baked goods in front of her, she's gonna eat it. And so we just decided she's 91. If all her calories come from sugar, it doesn't really matter. So we feed her what she'll eat. And so we bake a lot for my grandma. And she does love the raw apple cake. I made her an apple fritter bread last week that she ate in like 3 days. So I'm gonna make her another one of those because that seems to have gone over really well. We've made her apple pies. And of course, when you bake for grandma, you bake for yourself as well. So you always have one for you too. Okay, this is nice and stirred up. And you've gotten to know my grandma a little bit more. So we have our 2 pie crusts. I did do the second one off camera, and it was not nearly as pretty as the first one. So thank goodness you guys saw the good one. Whew. I can't imagine if you would have seen the mess I made of this second one. But you can't really tell now that it's in the pie crust. And once it bakes, you're not going to be able to tell at all. So we're going to put half this mixture in each of these. And we used a mixture of apples. So this isn't all just one kind of apple. It was both yellow and red apples. And they were Jonathan's and Gala's.
And some Yellow Delicious.
And some Yellow Delicious. Yeah, so we've had quite a variety of apples this fall. And they have been good. I've eaten more apples this year than I think I ever have in my life, but that's okay. Love them. And these apple pies are going to be wonderful. Now, you don't have to, I guess if you wanted to put apples in like a design in your pie and like stack them or lay them out all pretty, you could do that. This is old school way of doing pies where you just stick them in there and then you bake it. And that's what we're gonna do here. And we like a nice full pie. So you want to make sure it goes all the way to the bottom and all your little nooks and crannies are full. Oh, and I tore my pie crust over here. Okay. If you want to comment on this video on what your favorite kind of pie is, we can chat about that. I will eat, oops, you didn't see that. I will eat pretty much any kind of pie. I'm not a huge fan of like a custard pie, unless it's like a chocolate or something like that. Chocolate pie is delicious, but you know, just a custard didn't really do it for me, but pretty much anything else is great. All right, so here's our pies. Now we need to make the top pie crusts. And this is where you can get fancy if you want. If you want to cut out little pieces, if you want to, you know, do a lattice. There's all kinds of ways to do a top pie crust that is really pretty and fancy. Or if you're a novice like me, you can just make a plain pie crust to put over it. That's what we're going to do today, because we are just learning. And you know, when you just learn something, you shouldn't go fancy right away, right? You should start plain and simple and perfect that before you start doing the difficult stuff. Oh no. Oh, did you guys see that? I just hit that with my rolling pin. Damaged my pie crust. Oh my goodness. This is a disaster. But it's going to be delicious. I hope you guys enjoy these videos. I hope you learn something, and not just how crazy I am and how I have trouble following recipes. You learn more than that. It's sticking. And how I can't roll in a circle, that's another thing. I don't know why I'm sticking so bad here. Mom, why am I sticking so bad?
I need a little more flour on your rolling pin.
I keep putting flour on my rolling pin.
There we go.
If you're a cook like me, you'll be wearing flour by the end of this. My shirt is probably covered in flour. Okay, I got a nice circle. Fold it in half.
Moisten your edge on your pie.
Oops, find the right little water. Okay. Moisten our edges, Mom says, so that your two pie crusts stick together.
You're going to put your butter on the top too before you put your...
Oh, I'm so glad you're here to teach me this, Mom. See, I don't know why she didn't want to be on camera. Camera work is fun, I guess. Okay, so then we just need a couple pats of butter on top of the apples. All right. How many pats would you put on?
Oh, I put about 3.
Okay, well that's like 2.5. I'll do it. I'll even out my butter here. There we go.
Spread it around even.
What, the butter?
The butter. There you go. All right.
Okay. And then, let's see how this works. Oh, look. That doesn't look too bad.
Looks good.
And then we do thumbprints.
So push it all the way out. Use your thumb and press it all the way around the edge so you seal the crust.
And then you guys know what the best part of pie crusts are. Pie crust cookies. You don't know what pie crust cookies are? Oh, okay. Well, pie crust cookies are definitely the best part of making homemade pie crust. So what you do, once you've pressed around the edges like this, that's my starting point, then you take a knife and you cut around the edge. Because you don't want that hanging out on your pie crust. Okay. And then we're gonna make a few slits in our pie crust, correct, Mom?
Correct.
How many slits would you make in here?
I don't know, whatever you feel like, half a dozen.
And you want to do that so it vents out. I don't know if anyone's ever had a pie explode from lack of venting. I don't know. It could be a fun science experiment. It's beautiful.
Okay, now you're going to flute it.
What is fluting? Okay. Mom may have to come on camera. Okay.
Okay. So you take your thumb and your finger and you pinch it.
Oh, that's how you get the little upper edge, the edges like that. Okay.
So try it.
Thumb and finger, and I pinch it. Okay.
Do that all the way around.
I don't know why I'm doing it left-handed. That seemed weird. Actually, I might have been able to do it better left-handed. I don't know. Okay. I see how we're doing here. Okay. See, we are doing slightly fancy. Not super fancy, but okay. So, look, this is my first pie. I think it's gorgeous.
And then if you want to make it a little bit sweeter on the top, you can sprinkle a little sugar or a little sugar and cinnamon on the top of your crust.
Cinnamon and sugar. Let's do a little cinnamon and sugar. So we'll just mix up a little cinnamon and sugar here. I just sprinkle it on.
Gives it a nice little glaze and it makes your crust a little bit shiny. And
now, Mom, do you ever put an egg glaze on your pies?
you can do an egg wash on the top, but you'd do that if you didn't do the sugar, probably.
Okay, so it's an either or thing. So you can't have a cinnamon and sugar egg glaze.
Well, I've never tried it. There's no... You can try it and see what happens.
We're not going to do it on my first pie. We're just going to make this beauty. There we go.
All right. Now you're ready for the oven.
Now we can put this in the oven and it will bake 425 for 40 to 50 minutes until it's browned and it starts to bubble through the slits. Now, this is a really full pie. So if you don't want to clean your oven, you may put a cookie sheet on the rack below it, just in case it cooks over. Then you have a mess on a cookie sheet and not on the bottom of your oven. And we all know cleaning an oven is terrible. Okay, so that is the perfect pie crust and an apple pie almost ready for Thanksgiving. I'm going to finish up the other one and then we'll see what these look like when they're done. Okay, so our apple pies are out of the oven. And I think they look beautiful. This one did cook over just a little bit. I probably didn't have it sealed quite right, but I think they're going to be delicious. And then we also have our pie crust cookies. You know, I mentioned pie crust cookies, and that's what these are. So it's your leftover pie dough, rolled out thin, sprinkled with cinnamon and sugar, cut up into just whatever shapes you want, and then baked with your pies until they're kind of brown, and they're delicious. And then we do have a correction. Okay, so I told you, Mom said this was 1976. This is actually the 1969 edition of the Betty Crocker Cookbook with the 1974 reprinting. And just for fun, we got out her original book. This is why she needed a new one. It's definitely well used, and now it looks much better. So that is the story of the Betty Crocker Cookbook. It's a 1974 reprinting of the 1969 edition. But we made lots of pie crust today. I got a little bit better. We ended up making pear apple pie crust, or pie that's in the oven. 2 pumpkins, they're in the oven as well. And then we have a spare pie crust that we might make like a chocolate or something like that out of. I haven't decided yet. And then we made my grandma some more of that apple fritter cake, so she'll have lots of dessert this week. That is it for this month's edition of DIY Homesteading with Missouri River Regional Library. I hope you have enjoyed our perfect pie crust.